Hello, lady.
Hi.
I always get like stressed that it's not going to let in
I
because I
know.
always have those problems. But, anyways, I was just giving them kind of like a little intro of what we're going to talk about. But since you're here now, do you want to introduce yourself? I'll introduce myself and then we'll get into it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I am Maddie. I'm a women's health and fitness coach, and I help women get super strong, build a strong body and fast metabolisms, and a lot of confidence in their body.
Yeah, I love that. And Maddie and I, we're alike and different as coaches, which you're going to see in our live. But the one thing that we really can agree on and come together is that we like to help women reach their health and fitness goals in a really sustainable way, in a way that allows us to go on vacations, enjoy your honeymoon, do
Hmm.
different things without feeling like, oh man, I'm going to screw up my results, or I'm going to come home and feel guilty about it after. Like, no, we're not about that. And so that's why we wanted to be here today to talk about our biggest and best, I would say, like travel tips, what we tell our clients, what we do for ourselves. And it works really great because Maddie is about to be going on her honeymoon. So I'm sure you're going to even be thinking about these things yourself while you're enjoying your trip, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it's kind of funny too, like when I think back of, I think we've all went through this, especially as coaches, but for people that are watching, you probably had times where you were very strict on whatever lifestyle plan you were on, and then you go on vacation and you're super strict still. And then maybe you have like, I think it was how many years? 4 years ago, where I had my first vacation where I wasn't like worried, you know. I wasn't worried about weight gain. I was enjoying the foods and I wasn't like also binging because I was just like, oh, F it, I'm going to eat whatever. So it's not like we haven't probably both went through this where we had that realization of like, wow, I can enjoy a vacation and not freak out.
Totally. Like I have been on both sides of it. It's either like being really strict and having trouble enjoying myself fully,
Mhm.
or on the other side of it and being like, we're here for a week, fuck it, it doesn't matter. And neither is great because there's a lot of stress or food guilt or feeling like you have to make up for the damage you've caused, which you're
Right.
going to, learn from us quickly that like we don't believe in that. And so now when we can do a little weekend getaway or go on a ski trip or do different things like that, for me, like I know you kind of feel it yourself, it's easy and it's fun and we know how to have that balance, but it doesn't happen overnight. Like that's why we're here talking about it, because that is one of the biggest struggles I faced in my journey, clients have faced. We can relate to this. So that's a big part of what we're going to talk about is overcoming that and giving you guys the tools so that you can do that yourself and you can go on your next vacation and not find yourself stressing, and you can actually enjoy and be present.
Yeah, because you're gonna have vacations. You're
Yeah.
gonna have it's gonna like just like the holidays, they're gonna happen. So why don't we go into it being way more prepared because we're gonna experience this every year probably.
100%. Like that is the best thing to remind yourself. If you plan on never going to another wedding, never celebrating another holiday, never going on vacation, this video is not for you, right? We're talking to like real people. We're all doing this shit. We're all trying to enjoy ourselves. And so I'm always of the mindset like if I can teach people how to do something, like I can give you the tools, you're going to be way more successful than just trying to be strict and just kind of like following a really like robot style sort of life. Like that's not the vibe.
Right. Right.
I love it. Okay, so do you want to jump in first? We're going to be sharing probably three of the, I would say, the most important things for like building that strong foundation. Do you want to start with the kind of the bullet number one that we have written?
Yeah, so we first want to talk about like what we do for our clients to help them get through their vacation and not be freaked out, and how do they like get through it like food wise, things like that. And I would say like, the like first most important thing for me is I always communicate really effectively with them and tell them like because people say like, well, how do I do your program on vacation? And I always tell them that like we're not going to plan a diet phase, a strategic diet phase where we're trying to lose weight every week. around your vacation. That's not the goal. I don't want you to go on vacation and be counting every macro, like perfectly and make sure everything is perfect. That's not the point of it. So I always make sure we're going to have those diet times well outside of vacation time so we can actually enjoy it. And then the second thing is I give them a few different options, and they also have the option where they could pick one of these and be like, you know what, I don't want to do that. I just don't want to track anything. And that's totally fine too. It's a personal preference and what feels best for you. But I always give them the option of they can totally track what they're eating if that feels comfortable to them. If they want to stick with that, that's fine. They could also just track a certain few things, which we call like the main priorities, the non-negotiables. And that could be they're getting steps in every day, they're getting water in, they're just tracking protein or making sure they're having protein in every single meal. And then the other option they have is where they could just focus on just tracking protein and tracking water intake. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can do on a vacation, and that's why I really like the non-negotiables, because we can do this with any period of our life. If we're having a really busy period or something happens and the family's all chaos right now, we could just have a few things that we hit every day, and that makes sure the needle moves forward instead of feeling like life's happening to you. So it's kind of like vacation and also like busy life.
Yeah.
So they have all those options available to them. So it's not like they can only do one or they can't do anything, because I would assume, I kind of know this from knowing you for a while now, like your program's not like an on or off. There are many, many layers to it. It's not like Shakeology where you're not taking your shakes and you're off,
Right.
There's a lot of layers to it that we can make it fit for what works best for you.
1,000% agree. And I like the idea of having like daily non-negotiables, whether it's with traveling or, like you said, holidays or life happens. I mean, as a coach, what I like to remind my clients of is like, shit can happen any day. Like, you might have car problems. You got to take your dog to the vet. Shit can just happen. So if we can learn to be adaptable and we can kind of create a plan that works for our life, we're going to be successful long term. So the idea of daily non-negotiables, whether it's steps, getting water in, protein at every meal, even if you're not tracking it, you can visually see, okay, here's a protein source on my plate. I'm drinking my water. After we have a nice breakfast when we're on, a resort on the beach, let's go for a walk. And not to be restrictive, but because these things make you feel good. And because your goal when working with a coach and being on a health and fitness journey is, for most people, I'll give an asterisk, most people, it's to feel good and to improve the quality of your life. And so even when you're on vacation, you can still, like you said, do things to move the needle forward without it feeling like it's taking away from the vacation. And similar to you, I do like to, for myself, my clients, I like to give choices because, yes, I'm a coach, but I'm not your mom. I am not going to yell at you. I'm not here to say, like, you have to do this, because you're an adult. So I like the idea, as you said, giving them choices. So yes, you can track. If that feels easy for you, for somebody, I've been in this for 8 years. Like, this health and fitness journey has had ups and downs. For me, going on vacation and tracking is fairly easy and it doesn't feel restrictive. However, I also can look at my plate and know what's on my plate. And so I don't always need to do it. So having those choices is really important because it reminds us, like, oh, I'm in charge. Like you said, it's not like Shakeology or the number of fucking crazy diets out there. Like, you are allowed to kind of take your foot off the gas and coast and still do good things for yourself, as well as maybe have some extra dessert, or you're eating things that you don't normally do. It's not, it doesn't have to be so intense, which is unfortunately where I think people get caught up, that it has to be perfect even though they're on vacation. And to me, that feels hard. that doesn't feel always attainable.
No, and I think it also like burns like your engine a little bit. Like just thinking like, work as entrepreneurs, like you have to take time for yourself. You can only spread yourself so thin and do all those things. And you have to have time where you're not, pedal to the metal going as hard as you can. Even like workouts, same thing. You can't push yourself super freaking hard every single
Yeah.
workout. And
Yeah.
it's good to have those breaks. So sometimes like where I'll have clients where they're like, yeah, I'm just gonna, focus on the non-negotiables this month. Like that's fine. If that's what feels comfortable to you and feels like we can come back next month and not, let's say, gain, a couple pounds that month or get completely off track from drinking a gallon every day. You eat a little bit less, but it's a lot easier to come back stronger and more refreshed.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And for us, vacation or taking time off, doing these sorts of things is to recharge and fill up our cup and do things we're not doing every single day. So if it means you get to be a little bit more lax and you're trying different foods, you're doing different things. Maybe you're not in the gym, but you're going, maybe you're in a tropical place, you're exploring waterfalls, you're walking a lot during the day. Like we can still do these really good things for our health and for our goals, but it doesn't have to look like our normal everyday structure. And I like to talk, I mean, even for myself, I show up every single day, whether I'm giving 99.9% or I'm giving like a solid 20%. Like when shit is happening, I'm like, okay, how can I still show up? Can I drink some water? Yep, I can do that. Can I make sure I'm getting in a protein source at every meal? Yeah, I can do that. And if I'm on vacation and for one of those days, that's all I can do, that is still better than the alternative of being like, fuck it, I'm not drinking any water today. Or fuck it, I am not having any protein because I'm just not going to be perfect. So who cares to try it all? Which it sounds funny, but like I've been there, you've been there. It's easy to fall into that mindset. So just like, even if you're showing up for yourself on that vacation, like a little bit, like you said, it's better and it's easier to get back to your normal routine versus going on like a fuck it train and getting like way far away from your goals.
And it's funny because the amount of clients that I have that where we are in a really good routine, they're eating really good, they feel really good, and then go on a quick trip, whether it's like a shorter trip, a work trip, girls' weekend, whatever it is, and they're like, oh my God, I feel terrible.
Yeah.
Like one, you don't realize how quickly your body adapts to feeling really good. And then when you don't do anything at all, how quickly you feel bad. And two, like, wouldn't you rather go through your vacation? Like when I go on our honeymoon to Italy, I don't want to feel super bloated and super lethargic and like a mess every day. Like, so I'm going to make sure I get lots of water in. We're going to be walking a lot. I don't need to worry about steps, but I don't want to feel like crap. So I'm not going to treat my body like crap.
That's also another really good point because when we do start feeling really good, it is easier to make the decision to do things that make us feel good. And kind of what snowballs after that is when we're doing these good things for ourselves. Like if we're doing a lot of sightseeing on vacation and we're walking, easy to get those steps in. We're going to feel less bloated. If we're consistently paying attention to like even little factors, like maybe you're not tracking your food, but you're just being mindful, we get to have a more neutral experience when we come home. Because I know the first thing my clients love to do when they get home from vacation is get their ass on the scale. I'm like, you just got home from a flight, go to bed. But I mean, sometimes curiosity, just like we can't help ourselves. And what we often see is the scale has increased. And it's not always for the reason that our clients think, or maybe you guys watching here. It's not always fat gain, because whether you believe it or not, putting on fat is actually going to take longer than like your week vacation, right? Like I know it's feels like it's hard to believe, but like you didn't gain weight overnight. You didn't gain weight in a week. It's compounded over time. So how do you go about the conversation with your clients when talking about potentially managing expectations post vacation? Because that is something that comes up all the time. And I know it's something that I used to hyper focus on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's not actually fat gain. And one thing I always remind them is that, like, I have a client who she always gets extra bloat when she flies, like every single time, between drinking less water because she doesn't want to go to the bathroom as much, or just doesn't have the, accessibility to water. Like, she's always going to be super bloated in her food choices because you're limited, to what's at the airport. So that's always a reminder, like, hey, we know we're going to be heavier when we get home. That's normal. But I always tell them, like, because we don't treat this like on the wagon, off the wagon, and we have those, what did I call them earlier? I already forget the name.
Non-negotiables?
Yes, thank you. The non-negotiables list. It's not too hard of a climb to get back to what you were doing. So when you come home, it's just kind of like you get back to your regular routine, the weight is going to trickle right back down. So we might have that spike, and that's why we go off the average. We don't go off of the one weigh-in we do a week. None of my clients do that because we need to see an average of what's happening. So you'll notice every time it's always trickle down, down, down. And by the end of the week or the second week after, we're already back to normal weight. So I always remind them, don't freak out. We're going on the average. And if we stick to the non-negotiables and you don't go on the trip and say, like, F it, we're not going to have this residual weight gain.
Yeah.
The biggest weight gain that people are going to see is when they come home from vacation and don't go back to their regular routine.
That's really important.
Yeah, they continue the vacation habits. And then that's how we see the actual weight gain. Because I'll for sure weigh heavier after Italy. I mean, food's different. Quality's better, I would say. Better, a lot of crap. But we're going to be eating differently, and that's okay. And I know I'm going to weigh different, but I'm not worried about it because I know I'm just going back to my regular routine. So it's not like, I'm going to come home and then be doing the same style for the next 3 months. That's where the weight gain comes in. So if we can get back to the routine, not put a ton of pressure on ourselves to weigh a specific weight by a certain day, then there's really not much to worry about.
Yeah, and you said that so great, and I'm probably going to steal that from you, but like the vacation habits, if we come home and continue those, which sometimes I know back in the day, that would be something I would do because I would come home, see the number on the scale, and become really discouraged. So let's say it would be like mid-June. I'd be like, all right, I'm starting fresh July 1st because that mindset is just like, well, fuck it. I've already ruined this month, so I'll start fresh next month. When in reality, that only hurts us. Not only does it, get us farther from our goals, but like mentally that creates such a negative pairing with vacations. And that creates a lot of stress and anxiety thinking about the next vacation I'm going to take, because then I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to gain weight, and then I'm going to feel really upset, and then it's going to take me a while to get back into my routine, and we kind of just spiral. And so I really like how you said thinking about it as vacation habits. And if we can just like get right back to baseline, which is why having a coach or a support system is like fucking the best thing ever, because we get to like have somebody to remind us, hey, like, you know what? We did our damn thing over there when we were in Italy enjoying all the amazing things. So what can we recommit to? How can we slowly get you back into your everyday routine? And when we're talking about the weight, I love that you mentioned doing like daily or every so often days of the week weigh-ins, because if you were to like take somebody's weight one time a week, it's like taking, just like a picture of them randomly during the week. And that one picture does not define all of the work that they've done, right? You could get a really bad idea of, or a false idea of what the work that they're actually doing is. And I shared a post last week or a week prior, where I had traveled down to Boston. I was in the car for like 8 hours both ways. It was like stressful. Didn't want to drink a lot of water because I was like, I got to get there, in the hair salon for 5 hours. Like I was doing zero movement. And when I came back a couple days later, my weight was like almost at where I started my dieting phase. And I kind of did this on purpose, took daily weigh-ins. And by the end of the week, guess where I was? Back right to my lowest weigh-in. And it's really helpful for us to be candid about that, because then it reminds people, it's like, oh, maybe I should look into daily weigh-ins and not judge myself on a Monday when maybe I've had some weekend food or some weekend drinks and my weight a little all over the place. So I love that you mentioned that. And, you know, when it comes to being in a dieting phase on vacation, and I know you said with your clients, you try to not plan the two at same times, but if it does happen, do you like to give your clients like ideas or ways that they can be a little bit structured without like taking away from their vacation? Or do you kind of go in it with the same mindset of like, here's some options you can kind of pick from so that you can really choose how you want to show up?
Yeah. So first, Candace, my friend, is commenting it. I want to like not acknowledge you. Thank you, Candace. You're the best. But yes. So I've only had, I would say two clients diet on vacation. One of them chose it.
Yep.
The other one also chose it and immediately regretted it. She would rather diet during the holidays.
Yeah.
So it's all about preference. For me, I would rather diet during neither of those times. So that's just a personal note. But I definitely, same thing applies, the non-negotiables, right? And just being realistic. My first coach that I had and mentor too, she told me whenever I was going on vacation and what she would tell her clients is like, you know, we can undo the damage when we come back.
Yeah.
Whether we have to adjust for things or extend the diet a little bit longer. Right now, I have a client where she is in a diet phase, but has a few days of a trip, and she's worried about it. And I told her, like, you know, you're going to be with your friends. You know, they really like to drink alcohol. You don't have to drink alcohol if you don't want
Yeah.
it. And I don't think, like, the age also, like, she's 26, I think. And, you know, at that age, you might be a little more judgy if your friends aren't drinking alcohol. I was never in that. Like, we drink alcohol thing wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
But you don't have to give someone an explanation to why you're not drinking. Like, oh, no, I'm just not drinking any.
Yeah.
But if you want fun drinks, I know I'm like switching into alcohol here, but you can bring things like Neo, like little
Yeah.
lemonade packets, make it a fun drink. But you can limit yourself to, I'm going to allocate 20 to 30 carbs for my one drink of alcohol.
Yeah.
And I know that's going to affect how I show up on the scale, but I'm not going to let it affect me mentally.
Yeah.
So it's doing things like that, preparing yourself mentally that like, hey, after this trip, the scale might be a little bit weird. I'm not going to freak out about it. I'm going to get right back on track. And just being mindful too, of course. Like when you think about what you're there for vacation, you're not there to just eat and drink. You're there to,
Right.
you know, be there for the experience, see all the things, see the people you want to see. And of course have yummy food, but not to the point, which I'm sure you probably have a distant memory of, because I definitely do, where you eat so much on vacation, you like want to throw up and it's like miserable. I did that
It's
not that long
awful.
ago. Yes.
Like
Yes.
no part of that is enjoyable, because you end up like you physically feel
Yeah.
not good,
Yeah.
and then you also send yourself down a guilt trip.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
that's why we're here and we're talking about this, because like we're not two people that have never experienced this. Like we
Yeah.
are two people that know this very well. And I remember being, you know, dieting before a trip and going on the trip and then like going crazy balls to the walls, feeling sick because I was in this like scarcity mindset of like, when I go home, it's going to be really strict. And
Yeah.
so even right now, I'm in a dieting phase myself. Several clients are, and I'm thinking I've got weddings coming up this summer, different little trips. And I know for myself, I'm going in with the mindset on these different days or little trips that it is okay to go over your calories or to have a couple extra drinks, but it's about what you do the next day. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really a mindset I like to remind my clients. Like maybe you're showing up 70%, 60% on the vacation, but like we were talking about earlier, if you can get back into it, it's really a non-issue, but it does take time to get to that feeling. And I like what you mentioned about going into the alcohol route, because I know you don't drink, and I probably on a vacation I would be more of a drinker, but even then, like I'm like two drinks and like I'm pretty much out for the count. So it's, how do you talk to your clients, like just kind of the importance of it, because we all know as humans, like alcohol probably not the best for us, but maybe, if we're socially drinking, we're having fun, whatever, we all know we're gonna like probably lead to like ordering some like late night food or hitting up some snacks, because that's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So with clients, how do you have that conversation? I know you said like suggesting like lower calorie drinks, and is it just reminding them, like asking them like how do you want to show up?
Yeah, and it's like setting expectations. Like,
Yeah,
you know, if let's say if they are in a diet phase, I'm like, hey, like this is not going to be the best way to go about it. But again, if we're on vacation, we probably should not be in a diet phase right now.
right.
But I try to stick with like a 1-to-1 rule where we're having like a drink, if they're going to have a drink, and then they have that followed by water.
Yeah,
So it's not one drink after another, after another, after another. And then, which everyone knows, when you have a couple drinks, then you kind of like, oh, I'm going to have these snacks, and you go down that route. So just know it's a slippery slope. And of course, for someone who doesn't drink, it's really easy to be like, no, I won't have any, because I've said that since I was like 21.
right.
So it's easy for me to say that. But if you do like drinks, like maybe limit to yourself to how many of these sugary drinks that are like the fun,
Yeah.
with the little tree stick umbrella in there.
Umbrella.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Limit those, and maybe have something that's like a little bit less sugary, and that way you can, have water in between, and you still had two drinks and call it quits after that.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree more with that, because it is hard. And if you're on vacation, people tend to push your boundaries a little bit more because it's
Mm,
it's vacation.
yeah.
Who cares? And it can be hard to feel like you have to defend your stance or be like, no, I'm good, because
Yeah.
you can only say that so many times until like it's just like fuck it, whatever. Like if it's gonna get you to shut up, then sure, I'll have like another beer or whatever. But what I like to do for myself is like what you said, like I will usually start out with like a fun drink. Like if it's during the winter time and we're skiing, I'm going for an espresso martini. Like it's got my name on it. I'm probably not going to have two or three, because the calories do add up, and it's just me being conscious of it. It's not being restrictive. Like you can have a little and then you can move on. And I think sometimes people get confused. They're like, oh, that feels restrictive. And it's not, because you have to make a conscious choice. Am I going to like really kind of blow my calories just on drinks and probably feel like shit? Or can I have a balance? And so I'm going for that espresso martini. And if I want something else, have like a seltzer, have a White Claw, something that I know I'll, have a little buzz. I'm in with people. I'm not feeling pressured. I can kind of milk it,
Mhm.
but I also know it's not going to make me feel badly. It's not going to, bother my stomach. It's not going to make me feel as if I've totally just like given up on my goals. Because even, when, you have a couple of drinks the next day, you're like, oh, you know what? I didn't really need that. And like,
Yeah.
I don't feel good. Does it really help my goals? No. So like as as you get older, which you said your client's 26, I'm laughing because I'm turning 26 in May. So like,
You're only 25?
yeah.
Oh God, I feel old.
You're not old.
I know, but I'm older.
You're older, but you don't look older. It's fine.
That's close.
But it's hard when you are in and around people that do drink more socially, especially on vacation. Like I just remember we were on a ski trip in like February, and it was a feeling of like, okay, I'm in my dieting phase and I'm able to really stay consistent because like we have our own kitchen, I'm cooking things, I'm pretty good at tracking on the fly. Like I've been doing this for a while. But when it came to just like ski culture, it's like we're having drinks, we're having beers, and it's like, okay, am I going to make a decision that makes me proud of myself? Or am I going to make a decision where I'm kind of like, fuck it, and then I wake up the next day and I'm like, I feel bloated and I don't feel good.
Yeah.
And I also know that I went in like the complete opposite direction of my goals. So even as somebody that, like, I'm a coach, I've been doing this for a while, I'm not perfect. There are still moments where you might make a decision that you wake up the next day and you're like, you know what, today I'm going to treat it differently. Today I'm going to make a decision that more aligns with my goals. And that's also okay to do. Like, if you're on vacation and you find yourself, you're like, oh, I woke up and I'm like, don't really want to recreate yesterday. I'm going to choose to do something better for me. That's okay. Like, we're not here to be perfect. That's like the last thing that we're doing over here, especially with our health and fitness. Like, we know it's going to ebb and flow.
And I think, not to go like in a sidebar here, but you kind of brought up like the ski culture and things like that. And as someone who, my husband's friends, like they are bigger drinkers, I am not, and they've always known that about me.
Yeah.
It is very different to be around people who are very into something and you're not, and you're always going to look like the odd one. And that's something I am totally fine with, being the odd one, because I am that's like something I value. Like not drinking is something that like, it's something that is a value to me. I don't drink based on many different reasons, and I'm okay with being the different person. So I think it's just like who you are around is going to make you feel, you know, either okay with your choices, or like, oh, maybe I should drink. But in reality, like people aren't truly judging you. They might be like, oh, like you said, like have a drink, loosen up. You know? But for me, like loosening up is like waking up tomorrow feeling great and doing whatever I want to do because I'm not hungover, because I don't feel like crap, because I don't feel like super bloated. So think about like what you want to do for your future self, and then also like you're allowed to make a decision on how you feel and be totally fine with that. And if someone like is making a fuss about you not choosing to drink, like then you don't need to listen to that.
Yeah, it's comes down to, which I think you do so well, it's like you're confident in that decision, and you can't be wavered. And that's a lot of the times with our health and fitness goals, we may feel like we're doing all the right things, we're following a plan, we're working with a coach, but sometimes we can still get insecure if we're out in a group of people. You know, I've had clients say this, they're like, I just felt awkward, and so I just kind of went with what everybody else was doing, or I couldn't say no. And a lot of what this lifestyle comes down to is just like practicing, getting those reps in, whether it's making decisions to have really balanced plates, even if you're on vacation. Like, yes, you can you're in Italy, enjoy all the pasta you want, but also get some protein on the side, because balanced meal, it's going to help you feel better, and you know that you should do it. So it's largely, I think, just this journey is really building that confidence to be able to make decisions that feel really good for you, because none of your decisions are going to upset anybody else. Like real world shit, it's not going to like make or break a friendship because like you don't do what everybody else is doing and like take a shot. Like not going to break drunk. You. Yeah, literally. So do you have any, I know I have different ways that I go about like creating that confidence, like whether it's traveling or just like going out with people, like how I kind of stick to what I want to do. Do you have any ways that you kind of like stick to your baseline and keep in mind your non-negotiables?
I know this is super corny and I'm blanking on the name, but I bet you'll think of it as soon as I say it. Is it David Goggins? Discipline equals freedom. Have you heard of that?
Not.
Okay, I'm pretty sure it's David Goggins. But that phrase, discipline equals
I love that.
freedom, is like my entire life. I am very disciplined and sometimes to a fault because I just love routine and I love to stick to things. And I think when you build that within yourself, it's really easy to wake up and do the stuff you have to
Yeah.
do. Like I don't think about waking up and am I gonna wake up and work out tomorrow? Like, no, I'm going to wake up and work out tomorrow. Like it's not really a choice.
Mm-hmm.
But I also really enjoy the freedom that eating healthy and working out and having non-negotiables gives me to where, something I was reading when we were looking through like Airbnbs were in the Amalfi Coast, a lot of them were like, if you can't walk a lot of steps, don't book here. I don't have to worry about that. Like
Yeah.
I lift a lot, I walk a lot. Like if I didn't do those things, potentially maybe steps, like taking a lot of steps up flights would be a concern to me. So for me, I know that what I'm doing enables me to do fun things, and that's really important to me. I don't want to be limited by my physical capabilities.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Because as soon as you said Amalfi Coast, I'm thinking a lot of stairs. It's,
Hmm.
you do have to be in
Yeah.
in physically good shape because it's taxing. Like, and even when you're in good shape, going up a shit ton of stairs is still killer, but
Yeah.
makes the world a difference when like you're doing the things that can help you get up there easier. But I love that, thinking about real life shit. Like, how can I stay committed because of what I want to do in the future? Like, how can
Hmm.
I think about my routine every day and how it's going to help me? How is going to the gym and eating right and getting my water, and how is it actually going to benefit me?
Hmm.
And so even bringing those things on vacation, like I'm going to enjoy myself, but I'm still going to kind of stick to my non-negotiables because I'm still going to be active and I want to feel good. And if we go on hikes or different excursions, I don't want to feel sluggish. And I
Hmm.
think that's sometimes it's an afterthought. It's like vacation, let's party, let's do whatever we want because work has been stressful. And sometimes we end up coming back from vacation 10 times more stressed.
Yeah.
And it's like, I need a vacation from my vacation. And it's like, well, because we didn't really take care of our bodies. So I love that you brought that in because especially like whenever we're going on ski trips or we go to this place in Maine and it's like this beautiful like house on the side of the mountain. There's a lot of fucking hiking and everywhere is hard to get up. And so I'm always like, I am glad I take care of myself because otherwise this would not be enjoyable and that would suck. And that's not,
Yeah.
we don't want the vacation to suck. Like the whole point of what we're talking about is we want to enjoy ourselves. So I
Yeah.
love that you brought that up. And I think one thing that helps me really stick to my ideals and to stick to my plan is one, going in with a plan and
Mhm.
like asking myself, okay, what is my capacity? What can I stick to? Sort of like the non-negotiables. What can I stick to even on this vacation? And if I'm feeling overwhelmed or feeling pressured, I'm literally going to excuse myself and go to the bathroom. And I'm just gonna like take some breaths and I'm gonna like have a conversation with myself and be like, yeah, this is overwhelming right now. And it feels easier to just do what everybody else is doing. But like, what do you actually want to do? And
Mhm.
it sounds silly, but I promise you, if you're feeling that overwhelmed, like you have a choice. You don't have to just like go with what everybody else is doing if it doesn't feel right for you. And I think people are afraid of like being a burden, but in reality, like looking out for yourself and kind of speaking up or just making a choice that maybe is not what everybody else is doing, it's not being a burden. It's just like you doing what you want and making a decision that feels really good for you. And so maybe it's not doing, a round of shots or getting another drink with people. Or maybe it's, you know, everybody's kind of doing a family style dinner and you're like, oh, I'm going to make sure that there's another protein source for me. Like, it's just making these little small tweaks so that you feel really good.
Mhm.
Especially on vacation. Like, that's where we want to feel our best because it's our time to relax and recharge. And the worst thing is feeling stressed or like stuck in what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, I think it's like back to what you said, like being confident about your choices. Like, that's something that takes time. I mean, I think it's like every time I see an interview on TikTok with like a 60, 70-year-old, and like one of the things they always say if they're like giving advice to younger women, it's just like be
Yeah.
confident in your choices and yourself and don't care what people are thinking because like in reality, like you were like the last thing they are thinking
Yeah.
about. And I think just as women and younger women, like we just kind of like always think back like, oh, people were judging me. When in reality, like literally no one is judging you. It's just ourselves because we're nervous for being portrayed a specific way, maybe.
Hmm.
So just being confident in the choice that you make and, the more reps you get making that decision, saying no, choosing the best option for you, whatever it is in that moment, because that can be a lot of things
Yeah.
from saying no to the drink or saying yes to the drink and practicing having one or
Yeah.
two drinks. You
Practice
know,
that moderation.
yeah, the more reps you have, the easier it gets to do that thing. So it's just going in with the plan, which I always resonate with and love that, and then being confident, like, I'm going to do this and it's going to be okay.
Yeah. I love that. Like, really, really backing up your own decision, like being your biggest hype person and being
Hmm.
like, yeah, that's a good ass decision. And I'm
Hmm.
confident in that decision. And I always remind myself and I remind clients that confidence is not going to come from a number on the scale, the number on the back of your jeans. No, confidence comes from doing. So, like you said, the more reps you do, the easier it gets, the more you can flex that confidence. You don't think about it as intensely over a period of time because it's just something that you do.
Hmm.
And in my head, I like to visualize like a fence. And when our confidence is like not very strong, we don't have really good boundaries, like that fence just like will flop over. Like a little breeze will flop it over. But when
Hmm.
that confidence is like, it's intact. You know what you're doing. You feel good about your decisions. You're not questioning yourself. That fence is like, it is strong. It is not going anywhere. Nobody, no matter what they say, like a judgment, it ain't going anywhere because you know what you're doing is the best for you. And I think going on vacation gets to be an opportunity where like you flex that too. You're like, all right, let me
Yeah.
see what I've learned. Let me see the things that I can actually put into place when I'm not at home and I'm not going to my 9 to 5 job. Like, let me see how I can actually do this health and wellness shit in the real world. And I think it can be an eye opening experience sometimes. And I think, like, I'm all for the challenge. That maybe back in the day I wouldn't have said that confidently, but I'm all for like challenging myself and seeing maybe different patterns or things that I can get to work on. And I just think it gets to be like a really cool experience.
Yeah, and the more times you practice it and have those days where you have untracked meals or where you have non-negotiables or life's busy, it will be a lot easier when you get into it. Like now, that was like maybe 3 or 4 vacations ago when that happened,
Yeah.
and I finally was able to like not freak out, relax, not worry about the scale. And now every time we've went out of town since, like I don't worry about those things. Like I'll be traveling, I don't know, sometime later this year for like probably a couple
Yeah.
weeks, and I'm not worried at all because I've been practicing this for a long time. And I'm sure you can think about like a vivid memory for me was like, the first time you drove a car, like how scary that was, like very scary. You think you're gonna kill someone. Even kind of like the same reminder of like riding a bike for the first
Yeah.
time, like that's scary. And now, like, you don't think about it. You just get behind the wheel. Like, sometimes I dissociate when I'm driving. Like, I
Like,
just
how
arrived.
did I get here?
Yeah.
Concerned, but
So,
true.
we want to get to the level of dissociation in our vacation where it's not like a lot of brain power to get through it and enjoy
Yeah,
it. So just practicing, that's what it's all about.
seriously. And the more that you can remind yourself and like think back to not you specifically, but like people when you're going on vacation, just thinking about what you had said, like it is not all about the food or the drinks, but it's really about the experience and being there. And if we can go in and remind ourselves of that and just be present, we are going to be more likely to just like make choices that help us feel good and we take that stress off. And then when you come home, then we regroup. And it's okay if the scale is up. I don't even weigh yourself. Give yourself a week. Get into your routine, drink your water, get your ass back in the gym, lift your heavy shit, eat your protein. And if we can just like not punish ourselves and be like, all right, vacation was awesome, but now I'm just going to get back into my groove. If you weigh yourself a week later, I guarantee you, like, you won't see any changes because you've given your body that
Yeah.
time. And the more we can do that and just like break away from the emotional connection of like how stressful it can be and really putting a lot of pressure on ourselves, the more you're going to be able to enjoy. So I think the biggest takeaway is like really just like practice, 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 go in with a plan, keep your expectations like reasonable. And then when you come home, like that gets to be the opportunity where you're like, all right, am I continuing like vacation habits or am I just getting back to what I was doing prior? And I love how you said the vacation habits. Like that is, I'm walking away with that one today.
That's a good one to walk away with. Before we keep going, because I know we can talk forever, what was I going to say? Oh, Allie and I will be doing this coffee talk training every month. If it falls like on a Sunday night, if it's the 11th, I don't know if we're going to just push it to the next day, but we're definitely going to be doing another one. I don't know what we're going to be talking about next time, but we'll find something fun to talk
Oh
about.
yeah. We give us like 2 minutes to brainstorm and like it's a list.
Yeah.
But what do you have going on in your world right now that you want to tell everybody about?
Yeah, so talking about vacation, I am launching it's a program slash guide. It's called the Fit and Healthy Girls Vacation Guide, and that's starting on May 8th. The doors have not officially opened, but you can sign up for when the doors do officially open in my bio, or just send me a message about it. It's the vacation guide. That's May 8th.
I love that. That is something that if I had that like 6 years ago, probably would have
No,
not had so many
meltdown.
moments. But that's why you're here. You're like, all right, learn from me and take all of my like best tips so that you don't have to go through that shit. I love that. That's awesome. I am hosting a free masterclass. The date is TBD, yeah, there we go, to be determined. But it is going to be in May. I'm going to be talking about it more on my page. It is a series I've done before, Ditch the Diet, where we are breaking down how to overcome that like diet culture mindset of having to be strict and perfect and all or nothing. Like we are rewriting that. I want to help you break away from the black and white thinking of what dieting has to be, because I help women lose weight and they're eating lots of food. Like it's almost alarming when people are like, wait, like how much is she eating? And it's like, we can train our body to do really cool things. So I'm going to be talking about that more on my page. But if you have any questions, drop them below. If there's any topics you want Maddie and I to cover, like she said, we're going to be doing this on a monthly basis. We'll always give you guys like a week heads up of when we're doing it. But if there's any topics you want us to talk about, drop them below. And Maddie, do you have any words you want to leave with the people?
Not really, just like we've been talking about, like practice, be confident in your choices, and vacations can be guilt-free. It just, takes effort to get there, and that's kind of the simple sauce.
I love that. Yeah, vacations get to be guilt-free when we choose to learn, like, okay, why is this stressful? If we just kind of put our head in the sand and we like pretend that it's not stressful, we're never going to get to the root of the problem. But understanding that if we go in with a modified plan, it gets to be really easy and simple. And that's what we want for you. We want you to be able to enjoy your vacations and like actually enjoy without having that like guilt hangover and thinking about, oh my God, how am I going to undo this damage? Like
Yeah.
we're breaking that mindset apart.
Awesome.
Yeah, I love you just said it at the same time. All right. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. If you're watching the replay, you have any questions, drop them below and Maddie and I will get to them. All right. I'll see you later, girl.
Bye.
Bye.